well, we are rolling.
Okay.
So this right here to my left is Heather Sage. She is one of my training clients at Anytime Fitness, and she is a badass mother of 3. And she just recently completed 75 hard. Now, some of you guys may know I did 75 hard. I've talked about it a little bit. It's not a challenge, it's a program. It's a mental toughness program. There are elements of working out and keeping on top of your fitness, and then also the aspect of the diet, but really it is a mental toughness program. So, Heather, my first question for you is what was the process like for you? Like walk me through those 75 days if you remember them entirely.
Yeah. So you told me about it at the gym for the first time. We started training together and you mentioned it, and my first thought was absolutely not. I'm not doing this. I can't do it. I have too much on my plate and it's a lot to handle in, every day, doing that many tasks every single day with no break. Because in the past, my routine was a lot of killing myself at the gym and cardio and starving myself, and then losing weight really fast and then giving up because I got burnt out. So I would gain it all back and it was just a really bad cycle. And so, I knew that I was ready to try a new challenge, and you and Danny at the gym are really good about giving me challenges that I have to complete, and so I like a good challenge. And so I took a little time to consider it, but then, then I thought, let me just try it and see how it goes. And so the first thing I did was, on my phone, on my notes app, I wrote a checklist out of all the daily tasks and printed it off, 75 copies.
Nice.
On paper, so that every day I could physically mark off that I've done it. It helped a lot to have a visual aid to see, and I didn't even know they have apps where you can do that now.
Yeah, make it a lot easier.
So I do have an app now to track that. But
nice.
So then, it was hard at first. The hardest part was drinking water, and I don't drink enough water at all, and so that was the hardest part. So I got my 32-ounce water bottle here, and 4 of these a day is what I had to drink. And so that for me was the hardest part because I like to read, so the 10 pages wasn't a problem for me. I like to read, so I did that. And the best part about the program is it's not so strict to where you are answering to somebody or held accountable by anybody. So it's really up to you. So for my diet, it was just a calorie deficit, just 1,300 calories a day maximum, and stick to that, which is simple because then you can still have, at the end of the day, if I had calories left, I could have some chocolate chips or something small instead of just binging, so that was nice. And then my workouts, for 75 hard, the rules are a workout and then an outside workout for 45 minutes. So it's really sustainable for me because the outside workout can just be a walk, and that, an outside walk is pretty simple. And with my kids, you can really incorporate them into the walk. And so I did that a lot. When I have them, they would go on walks with me. And so it would be like my inside workout, or my session at the gym would be like my high intense workout. And then the walk would be like the more laid back, which kept it sustainable. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear you say what you struggled with, because so now Danny is doing 75 hard, and and she's doing it with one of her clients. I don't think they'll care if I say her name, but Carly. And it's funny because everybody that's done the program that I know or is currently on the program, and Connie's doing it too, so Danny's wife, everybody struggles with something different. So you struggled with water. Mine was getting in the gym for the second workout because I had been doing walks every single day for months on end before I started the challenge. So I had the walk portion down, but I was like, how am I going to fit in that second workout before work and everything? Danny's worst part is reading. She doesn't like reading. It puts her to sleep. And then Connie, I don't know. Carly's worst is the no alcohol because she likes to drink.
Yeah.
And then Connie, I don't know what Connie's is. I'd have to ask on that. But it's interesting how everybody struggles with something different. And yours just happened to be water. Whereas, like, you know, some people, for me, that was easy because all I drink is water. Like, I might have coffee in the morning, but really, I don't drink pop. I don't drink tea. I mean, maybe on occasion. So I was like, dude, that's going to be fucking easy. But it's weird. Everybody struggles with something different.
The drinking part was a little bit of a challenge just because I started it June 1st and ended it August 14th, so the entire summer was alcohol free. And you know, I like a summer shandy in the summertime, you know, so that was a struggle. Well, it wasn't really a struggle until I had to travel, and I saw a few friends that, you know, back in the college days we would always get together and we'd always drink, and so I was very apprehensive about visiting friends because if I had to stay sober, would it still be a fun experience? Would I be bored? Would I want to leave early? And so what I learned was I can still have fun and not drink, which is it's important to know that when, you know, if you partied hard like in college or if you like to have a drink every now and again, it's nice to know that you don't have to in order to have a good time. And it really shows that, like, some of the people that I visited over the summer I hadn't seen in like 10 years. And so even without, with the alcohol, it could be awkward if you don't keep in touch, you know? So the alcohol might make it a little less nerve-wracking.
Yeah, it's a social lubricant.
Yeah, so that was just another added worry that I had. But thankfully, you know, in both instances when I traveled, you know, of course they wanted me to drink, and they would say things like, I won't tell anyone if you do, you know, or like, just one drink won't hurt you, like, or whatever. But you learn that you're the one who you're answering to yourself only. It's your progress that you're deterring if you give in. And if you give in for one drink, you know, it could lead to more and more and more, and then, you know, all that kind of thing. And so I was able to stay strong, and it was helpful too because when I'm traveling, I also have to go home. So like, if I were to drink, like if I wasn't doing 75 hard and I did party with my friends, I'd feel like shit the next day driving home, and it would be an awful drive, and I've done that before. And so that was a really a good perk of not drinking, because we still had fun. My friends drank, you know, and I would just have like a Diet Coke, and they would buy that for me or whatever, and we would just talk, and it was great to catch up, and then, you know, wake up in the morning and drive home instead of sleeping in until 1 and then getting home late. And so I found, you know, that I don't have to depend on alcohol to have a good time. But one negative aspect of traveling with this is the water intake. So like if you're driving, like if I went back home, it's like a 3.5 hour drive north for me. So I had to really plan my stops. Or like if I had the girls with me, like if they had to go to the bathroom, I would be like, okay, let me just chug the rest of my water quick so I can take a bathroom break with them. Because like otherwise I was holding out, and I'm like, let me just not drink my water till we get there so I don't have to stop a bunch of times. Because, you know, having 3 young kids, it's hard to take them all inside to go to the bathroom and keep track of everyone and then bring them all back and get them all buckled in. It's just a lot. So I try not to make a lot of stops when I'm traveling with them. But then when I'm the reason we have to stop, that was frustrating. So another issue with the water intake. But yeah, so that was a good thing. I wanted to mention about the water though. I had a couple of really positive experiences with the water intake, as much as I didn't like it. one of them, I think I've told you before, was I only got sick one time throughout the whole summer, and it was like a stomach bug or something, and my stomach was upset and stuff, but I had to drink my water, and I was very reluctant to do so because I felt like I was gonna throw up the whole time, but I had to get my water in, and so that was it was uncomfortable, but the sickness only stayed with me for a day, if that, like maybe 8 hours, and then it was gone the next day.
Wow.
Super awesome, because normally when I get the sickness from the girls, I get sicknesses from them all the time because they're in school and everything, and it'll stay with me for days and days. Like right now, I'm sick. I haven't been doing my 75 hard for the past, few weeks or whatever.
Yeah, you finished back in halfway through August.
Yeah, and so now this lingering cough is not going away, and I think it's because I'm not drinking my water.
Yeah.
So, that was one thing. One positive thing was the water intake helps your system flush out faster.
Yeah.
And gets all the nasty stuff out.
Definitely. That's an insight that I didn't think about, and I've told you as well before when I was doing 75 hard. So I started November 1st of last year, and then I finished January 14th of this year. And we had just started the new year, so I was like 60 plus days in to 75 hard, and then I got COVID. And instead of letting that deter me, I was like, fuck no, I've come this far, I'm going to double down and go get my workouts done. Now, people are going to be mad at me because they're going to be like, oh my God, you were spreading COVID. Well, nobody walks outside around January, so there was nobody around me out there. And I went to the YMCA and I walked around the track for 45 minutes, and there was really nobody in there. But I was fucked up for one day, and then miraculously pretty much everything went away. All my symptoms went away other than like coughing a little bit, and then I still kind of had some drainage. But that's I didn't really think about that, but probably because you're so hydrated, you're taking care of your body is able to respond a lot quicker. It's going to get leveled obviously right away when you get that sickness, but it's able to turn around pretty quickly and not let that sickness linger. So that's something I didn't think about. And then, I completed 75 hard while having COVID.
Yeah. I think another positive part about the water intake is I gave blood for the first time at work. It was during 75 hard, and I had my, drinking my water and everything. And I don't know if you've ever given blood before. Have you?
Not that I remember.
Like donating blood?
No.
So I was really nervous, and they really, they have all these, you have to checklist things, like say, I had to tell them that I got this dermal piercing, because it depends on if you can donate or not, or what they do with the blood afterwards, and all these like precautions and everything. And so I was really nervous because I hadn't done it before. And then, so when I was doing it, they tell you like to squeeze a ball or whatever, like every few seconds, and that it would take like 10 or 12 minutes. And I was like, oh, so there's going to be a needle in my arm for that long. Like, I don't really like needles, and I was really scared. But the girl who was doing it, the nurse, she was like, okay, she's like, we're about halfway done after like 1 or 2 minutes. And so I think drinking my water really helped my blood flow out really fast, faster than normal. When you're hydrated, the blood flow is quicker, and so it only took like a couple of minutes. And I didn't bring my phone with me, and there was nothing to do, so I was just kind of sitting there staring at the wall waiting for it to get done. And so they said it would take like 10 or 12 minutes or whatever, and I'm like, okay, so I'm gonna sit here, do nothing, and just be scared and anxious the whole time. But it really only ended up taking a couple minutes, and I do think it was because I was so hydrated that the blood just shot out. Not shot out, but you know what I mean, like it just...
It's like sperm coming out the top. Just shot out.
I wouldn't know anything about that, but...
Oh, man.
But I think it helped with giving blood because it just, the blood flowed out quicker. So I was able to get it done real quick, and then, I found that was helpful too. So like, I think there's a lot of positive experiences. Then we're talking about doing 75 hard when we're sick. What was I gonna say? Oh, the program is very it's like vague. So like if you're sick, you don't have to kill yourself in your workouts, which is the best part because then you're not derailed from being sick.
Mm-hmm.
So like if I don't feel good, I don't have to drag myself to the gym and, do weights or cardio and, just be miserable. You can do yoga, stretching, walking, which I think walking is also helpful when you don't feel good, just to get fresh air in your lungs and stuff like that. And so, take a day to do a more low intensity workout so that you're at least getting out of bed, moving
Mm-hmm.
around. And that also helps, it's just all around good for your health, and it's not just a weight loss program. It's not just, drop like 30 pounds fast. So like I dropped 30 pounds, but it was, over the course of 2.5 months and making healthy choices every day and not being miserable doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a positive experience to the point where I think I'm gonna do it again. I've noticed that I need that direction, that daily challenge in my life to keep me on track. Because I came in and saw you and Danny at like the day after I was done and talked to you guys, and I was like, I think I'm gonna take a few days off just to relax, because it can be stressful, and having 3 kids, a single mom, working full time, trying to get every single task done. So sometimes it does become a lot. So when I was done, I knew I wanted to take a few days, and you were like, well, don't take 5 days or something you said. And I was like, all right, well, then I had my birthday, so I had friends visit and stuff, and so I, had some fun and just kind of celebrated and stuff. But every time I said I was going to get back into the gym and, back to what, working on myself and, like, losing weight and stuff, it just kept getting pushed back. And I never stuck to it, which is going back to how I was before 75 hard, just it never was consistent. I think I've told you I've lost the same like 30 pounds many times after having kids. Like I'll lose it and then gain it back. And so I'm finding that's happening again. So I'm gonna go back to the 75 hard tasks and try and follow them again and do it again to make sure that I don't fall off the rails again. Because I haven't been able to get past that 30 pound loss mark yet. Mm-hmm. And so now that I'm at that part, it's time to take the next step and keep going.
Yeah, and that's Andy Frisella talks about that a lot. So if you guys don't know, that's the guy that created the program for free, so any of you can join it. But he says, once you go through 75 hard, you really, and this is what I was curious about with you, because I noticed it inside myself, is like, when you come out on the other side, you really are a transformed person. Like you are a new person, especially I think like with you weren't the most unhealthy person when you started, but when you're constantly changing your habits in your routines, even outside of the gym, you're gonna see more and more results. And that's been the hardest thing to communicate with other clients, is like they're kicking ass in their workouts, but they're not taking the extra step outside of the gym. And it's like, well, you can only go so far with me helping you, but you need to put in that extra kick, that extra effort. But, he says, so you change along the way, but discipline is a perishable skill, just like any other skill. And so the more investments that you make into your discipline, of course it's going to be stronger. But when you start making decisions, they could be little, like after you completed 75 hard, you had a few days off, which I completely agree with, because that's what I did. I think I took like 2 or 3 days off, and then I went straight into phase 1. Yeah. But the danger to that is that, so with each small decision, it doesn't seem like it's a big impact, but it's like compound interest. So the more that you make a decision in a certain direction, eventually that is going to become your fate or your destiny. That's why habits are so important. Even though they become boring and monotonous, they're leading you to a better future version of yourself if you continue to do it. And so he says that you want to be careful with that stuff because, you know, people, and this is the common thing that we see in personal training is, and kind of what you attested to, is you always lost 30 pounds, but then that was like your plateau and you would revert. So you make this progress, but then you keep going back. And I want to like really hone in on that aspect of the program and let people know that like, so you change throughout the process, but it's important then to recognize that and keep going in that direction. And I think that's why I push so hard with you to be like, you could do phase 1 and then you could do phase 2 and then phase 3. But yeah, that's really how it is. And for me, it's like now, I mean, I'm not like doing 75 hard right now, but like I always get my walk done. And then on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I get in the gym as well and do my workouts. Pretty sure I've always killed it with the water. I haven't read in a while, but I've kind of supplemented that with podcasts. And then for the most part, I've stuck with a diet. I don't think I have like a specific one that I've picked, but being on the program, it's really changed my mindset and how I take care of myself. And I was never unhealthy. It was just like, for me, getting on the program just brought everything to a new level. Like my physique is the best. I'm the strongest I've ever been. Best physical shape I've ever been in my entire life. And I imagine continuing this path, it's going to get better and better and better. But another question I have for you is, I really want to highlight the fact that you're a single mother with 3 girls. Tell me about how, like, because and I've said this to you before, but like so many people when it comes to getting on a program like this or like trying to make a positive change in their life, like working out, they will come up with this list of bullshit excuses and they'll tell themselves this story in their head as to why they can't accomplish their goals and get things on track. You, out of everybody that I know, which is a short list of people that have done 75 hard, you have all the excuses in the world to not do this program, and you still did it. Tell me about how having 3 girls, you're their mother, you're not with your ex anymore. How did that play into the whole 75 hard journey?
So, like I said before, when you first told me about it, I absolutely wanted to shut it down. And I think I said for a while that I can't do it, it's too much, I already have too much on my plate. But, you know, you were very encouraging, saying, you know, hey, I think you really could do it. And I thought about it because I only have my girls half the time, so like every Monday, Tuesday, and then every other weekend. So I thought about it in that regard. I think that's what helped me out a little bit, is that I only have them half the time, so I could really go for it on the days I don't have them and try to be more intense with my workouts when they're not with me, you know, which is half the time. And then the other half of the time, when I do have them, you know, I could do my less intense workouts, which helps it be sustainable when you have that, what do you call it? Like, it's just, you know, you have the high intense workout days and then the low intense workout days. So it's like you can continue in that way because, you know, you're not every day killing yourself, which, you know, like I said, I used to do. And then I had that mini breakdown in the middle of it, remember? I didn't lose any weight one of the weeks. It was like halfway through. Mm-hmm. And I texted you and was like, this, you know, I don't know if I said all this to you, but in my mind I was like, this isn't for me, I can't do it, it's not worth it. Like, it's just, you know, it's a lot of work for no progress or whatever. And I think I just switched over from doing cardio at the gym to weights. And so I blamed it on that. And I was like, it must be, you know, the weights aren't, I'm not doing enough in the gym now with my weights. It's not burning enough calories. I should be running. I should be, you know, starving myself because I'm not getting the results that I want. But thankfully, you kind of talked me down.
Got you off the ledge.
Yeah, and basically said, hey, you did just change your workout. Like, give it some time to show that. Like, give it some time to show the results. And the thing about 75 Hard is, like, it's 75 days. It's not just 30 days of killing yourself and then you're done. So, like, the progress is going to come slowly because it's little changes every day that add up to, in the end, the results that you want. And because it's longer, you don't have to kill yourself every day to get the results, because if you do little changes, it's sustainable for longer, and then you still get the result. It's not a race. But anyways, back to the girls. So, like, when I have them, I think it's important to incorporate them. So, like, it's 2 workouts a day, which when I have them on the weekends can be a lot because like I think I've told you before, like my oldest would be like, do you really have to do this every single day? Like, I wish we could be doing something else or whatever. And sometimes it would be like, okay, I have to read my book and get my outside workout in. So I'm out on the deck in the back reading my book and walking back and forth while they're inside watching TV. So that, I didn't like that aspect of it because that's why after I was done, I was like, let me just tweak it a little bit. Now that I've lost that 30 pounds, I can make a couple changes. But, it's not the worst thing for them to see that I'm improving myself. I was reading about self-help, I was walking, I was improving my health, which in turn, is going to make me more, I'm able to, like I said, we went to Sky Zone and I could jump around with them, play with them, throw them up. Lifting has really helped with, being able to piggyback ride with them. Even my 9-year-old, she's like 60 pounds and she'll jump on my back and it's just like I'm able to hold her up. And so, and that was just every other weekend for 45 minutes. I had to do that for myself. And I don't think, in my mind as a mom, you're always like, I want to enjoy time with my kids. I want to, make memories with them. They're young. They're 9 and 7 and almost 4. And so I want to make sure, I'm present, especially when I only have them half the time. But, they're seeing me loving myself, they're seeing me improve myself. They're seeing me, putting myself first so that I can be a better parent to them. And I remember when I was growing up, my mom would do exercise VHS tapes and stuff, and we would do it with her sometimes, and like that's a fond memory. She was taking care of herself but incorporating us. And so when I had them and I was able to incorporate them, like I would take the stroller and take the girls out to the path that we walked on, in Norwalk, just do a loop outside and talk, about whatever, and we can relate. So like, there are times when they can't do it with me exactly if I'm doing I guess I did Pilates and Adrienne would try to do it, but she wouldn't do it for very long. So it came down to like my one workout for 45 minutes would be like me doing it myself while they played or did whatever they were doing. And then I could let them be incorporated in the outside walk. We would just walk together outside, or at my house, there's like a loop at my house too, just my street kind of goes around in a circle. And so my youngest would always come with me and we would do walks while the other 2 played outside with the neighbors and stuff. But like she would come with me and I would take videos of her. I think I told you that I would take like Snapchat videos of her just talking.
You sent me one.
Yeah, I sent you one of her. Oh yeah, because she would call the rain grate dog poop.
Actually, I watched it today before we hung out. Yeah, I was going back through our messages and she like tiptoes across it and you're like, "Balam, she done did it." I'm like, "What the fuck is Balam? I don't step in the dog poop."
Yeah, she's like, "I didn't step in the dog poop."
But she has like some type of accent. It sounds like, "I don't step in the dog poop." Something like that.
She's insane. No, she's just so funny. And it was.
Still want to meet her.
Yeah, you need to meet her. I should have brought her here. No, but like it's just so. At times it can take me away from them to do my own workout, but it also brings me closer together with them, especially one-on-one time, which is super important. As a single parent of 3 kids, one-on-one time is so important. And so if my older 2, are old enough to play at the neighbor's house unsupervised and I'm just walking around the block, so like I'm still outside, my youngest and I can have that one-on-one time and we can be silly and goofy and she can I think she would appreciate that, happening consistently, just that time for us to go on our walks, and just laugh, and just be goofy. And so it's a give and take, but I think it's more positive than anything, doing that. And also another positive thing was my neighbor, she would be outside walking her dogs or working on, her flowers that are out, landscaping and stuff. And she mentioned, I never used to see you outside. I never it was always Bryce who was outside and you were always inside and didn't really know each other. I mean, we talked, but not as much as we do now. Mm-hmm. And so being outside, I met my neighbors, not met, but got to know my neighbors. On both sides, and when you're outside and they're outside, you get to know who you live around, and you just feel a lot more secure when you have a relationship with your neighbors. And it just happens naturally when you happen to be outside more. And I'm outside every single day now. And so that was a positive change. But yeah, I just think incorporating the girls into that active lifestyle, they can take that into the future and see, how important it is, even as adults and kids. My kids are active by nature. They're in gymnastics and dance, and they just like to play outside, and they like to, play at the park, and just, they're always doing flips or whatever. They're always active. It's just natural for them. But they need to realize, as a parent, we have to make ourselves be active. Mm-hmm. Because my job, I sit at a desk all day, very sedentary lifestyle. So back in the day when I was a waitress or a bartender, that was my workout, and I could stay in shape because I was always on my feet. But it's harder now when you're older and you have a job where you just sit at your desk all day. And when COVID hit, I had a choice. I was and I joined the gym at Anytime Fitness in May of 2020, right after COVID hit, because I was all right, I'm either gonna stay at home and become a blob and depressed and just, gross nastiness to staying at home all the time, or I'm going to do something about it. And yeah, so I joined the gym and then formed lots of really good relationships with everyone there. I just love everybody there. They're amazing. And so it's just been a snowball effect from there, I joined the gym and I would go, but it wasn't consistent. I hurt myself a few times trying to lift and hurt my back a couple times. So that's why I joined the training program, started working with Joe, learning how to lift, and then met you, and now 75 Hard. And so it's been a really good, it just gets better and better, as time goes on, just because I decided to join the gym, and now here we are.
Yeah, I think the coolest thing that you mentioned is and this is what I've said too, ever since I became a personal trainer, is the amount of impact that you can have on other people. And so basically, with you doing 75 Hard, your daughters are watching you take care of yourself, and that's going to have a positive impact, hopefully, as they get older, and they're going to remember that experience. And this is another thing that Andy talks about a lot, and I can't help but agree, with the society that we live in and how crazy things are in the world. And as we were talking about earlier at the coffee shop, where you got so many people online that are willing to criticize people for whatever they do. Everybody is a professional in some type of area in life. They're I'm a professional in politics or sports or whatever, and they're willing to cast out their opinion. When you do something like 75 Hard and you have your daughters watching you or your neighbors watching you, those people pick up on it. They see your behavior change, and then as long as it's the right receptive person, it might make them critically think that they should probably start getting their life together. And that's the only way that you change the world or influence people, is you can never force somebody to change. You have to lead by example and then hope that they pick up on that. And I commend you all the time as a client, is because you take what I give you seriously, and sometimes it's not even advice. Like I said, I think the only reason, maybe one of the only reasons that you did 75 Hard, or believe me when I talked about it, is because I've done it myself. I can't prescribe something that I haven't done, it just added to the legitimacy of my words. But I think that's like one of the coolest aspects about 75 hard, and once you start really embracing that lifestyle, is that like other people are going to pick up on that. I don't think your daughters will ever forget it. And then also, if you take this a step further and you do another 75 hard, or if you end up going into phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, like, and you continue that for the rest of your life, like, your daughters are still very young. They're at that age where they're just soaking up information like it's fucking crazy. And that, I don't know, to me that's the coolest aspect, is the fact that you could have an impact on people by your actions. You can say all you want with your words, but it's really, what are you doing? What is the example that you're setting? Are you setting the bar high? And that is going to get passed on to the people around you in your environment. You brought up when you joined the gym and how good the atmosphere is there. I've never had a job that it was that positive of an environment amongst co-workers, the members, and the clients. Have I had to deal with a few shitty people? Yeah, and I'm not going to single out names, but it's unlike anything when you work in a gym. These people are coming there to improve their lives, and you have a stake in that. You have a stake in helping them. And so, yeah, like a lot of times when you come to the gym, it's not that you're just working on your physical body. It's like, how many times have we said it's like a therapy session for you, and it might be a therapy session for me.
Yeah.
So you're working on your emotional capacity to deal with life's problems. And for a lot of people too, it's a spiritual experience. And so, yeah, I don't know. I just think that's so cool. And I think probably the biggest thing I admire about you in that whole process is, again, like I said, you had all the excuses in the world to not do it, but you did it. And not only that, your daughters witnessed it. And I think they'll be better people growing up because of it.
Well, I didn't tell you this, but talking about inspiring people, so when I got about halfway done with the program, I made a Facebook post saying halfway done, with 75 hard, and a girl that I know, she commented and she was like, I've been thinking about doing this, and she would message me and ask me questions about it, and it's like a snowball effect, like I said. So you did it, I was inspired by you to do it, and then naturally people are gonna look at me and be inspired and think I can do that too. Well, she started doing it. I think she's on like day 40 or day 42 or something like that. And she has 7 kids.
Oh my God.
7 kids, and I think they're a blended family, but yeah, 7 kids in all. And I think she had to start over once in the beginning because she fell asleep or something like that. But she's doing it now, and she made a private Facebook group where she posts her progress like every day. And, you can just see that she's, she posts her progress pictures too, which I haven't shared mine. You don't have to. Obviously, the program says you're supposed to take a progress picture every day just for your own, looking back on it and everything. So I have those, but she would share them, and you can see the difference, like 40 days, Challenges like fitness, diets and challenges and stuff are usually like 30 days, and then you're done. And with this, I think it's it's beneficial to it lasts longer, so you're more inclined to form those habits and keep them with you. And so when I was doing it, it was like, to me, I think I've told you this before, but like, to me, it wasn't like every day I achieved something and look at me, this is amazing. It was like, this is my list of things I have to get done for the day, and I'm gonna do it. And when you're doing it every day, you don't really reflect back much on your progress. You're just like, this is what I have to do, and that's what I'm gonna do. And now with school, I do the same thing. It's like, this is the task I have to get done, so I do it. And then when I graduate, I'll be like, wow, how did I do that? To me, it's just like a daily grind that you have to do. And then you look back on the results afterwards and you're like, holy shit, how did I do that? Because like, especially with traveling, it does get difficult because you're trying to find time to get workouts in when you're not home. And so when I visited my mom and my sister, I actually had her join me. We did a weights workout. I brought my weights with me all the way up north, packed them in the van, and, you know, did the weights workout with my sister, you know, just while the kids were running around playing. And we just, you know, I was able to show her how to effectively lift weights because she was interested in trying that herself. And so, you know, I learned a lot from joining the gym and learning how to lift effectively, and then I could show her how to do it. And so instead of, you know, normally when I would visit her, it would be like, let's just order pizza, have some wine, and just, you know, get drunk and talk, and that's fun, right? We enjoy doing that, but it doesn't have to always be like that. And so there'll be the times that come, few and far in between, where you can get drunk and have fun or whatever, but you don't have to, was a lesson that I learned. And so when I visited her, it was like, let me just take this opportunity to show you how to improve your life as well, and just share that. And then my mom as well, like, I went on a walk around, and she would come with me on my walk. So she would come and visit me, and we would go on a walk, and it helps her improve her life as well, you know. And then you have done it for so long that you get really good at it, and then they can't keep up with you, and then it's kind of like an ego boost where you're like, well, I do this walk every day and you can do one lap now. But you know, but still, even just one lap is like getting her out of the house, and like, you know, getting her active, and, you know, helping her improve her life. And so just, you know, not only inspiring, I cannot speak, inspiring my own kids, but also inspiring, you know, my mom or my family or other friends who might be watching me. Because I'm not big on like posting on Facebook or social media about myself. I don't know, you might notice on Instagram it's mostly just pictures of my kids. That's all I pretty much post about, and that's all I had been doing ever since having them. It's like they're my life. But I should also have a life outside of them. Like, that's not my only identity. And so 75 Hard and you have taught me self-love is very important. You know, I have to love myself first, and I have to be proud of the person who I am, so that I can, you know, trickle that down to my kids. And like, I should be proud of my accomplishments with 75 Hard, and like appreciative of all the things that it has helped me with, you know, mentally too, learning about my trauma and like dealing with that, and learning about what it is, and then, like we said, catching ourselves when we are triggered and being able to turn it around. And like we said earlier today, like taking a negative and turning it in, thinking about it logically, and then turning it into, how can I improve this? How can I do it? Because you can't control anyone else. You can control yourself and how you handle it. So it's all in your head, and if you can do that, it's such it's just a huge win to be able to mentally conquer your own mind.
Yeah, I mean, think about it as if it really is a superpower. And we were saying earlier at the coffee shop that, like, how many people actually check themselves in a situation like that where they may get triggered or have an emotional response. Your gut reaction is to like fly off the cusp, or like go have that argument with that, whatever it may be. Is different for everybody, but a real sign of growth comes when you can distance yourself from that emotional onslaught. And people just, I mean, this was never taught in society, like how to deal with these things, how to deal with your emotions, how to build discipline. And that's what I love about the program. You're noticing not only how your discipline has increased, and at the end you see some physical results, but then also your mental capacity to deal with hardships, or just those subtle little things that come up on our radar, our blimp, every single day. And you're like, I don't have to engage with that. I can pass that on. Or like maybe you engage with it for a second, because I was using the example of the most recent thing that I went through. And it took me about a week to really break it down for what it was and see where I was being irrational, and then move on and just not let it bother me. And, you know, to be honest, a week is a very short period of time. A lot of people, they get caught in their mental foreplay or mental rut or whatever, and they stay there for like a month. So it's really cool how, because I learned that too on the program, but you were able to see how it was impacting your mentality and how you would handle situations. And when it comes to traumatic responses that both you and I have had, is like now we've created a little bit more of a buffer period. It's not always going to be 100% perfect, because when you get triggered, again, that's just your natural reaction. But now you can take time to sit back and reflect, and then ask yourself those tough questions like, why am I reacting this way? Is it serving me? Is it this person? Is it partly me? And self-awareness is the key to transformation. So I think maybe this is an underrated aspect of the program, that it creates more of a sense of self-awareness, which I don't know how it would from all the things that you're doing. I don't know if the discipline is impacting that, but there's something that is shifting in your mentality to just deal with problems. Because like, people just get so off track in their lives by little things that should have no weight or impact on you, but they get stuck on it and they get fixated on that issue, and it's just like a continuous water going down a drain. You're not getting anywhere. So that's really cool, and that's one of the conversations we've had a lot, is how your mentality has changed around some of your trauma.
Yeah.
And I know you were kind of hesitant to get into that, but...
Yeah, and we could just keep it high level, too. Like you've said before, like, you can't convince me to do 75 hard unless you have gone through it, too. And I think it applies to the mental health aspect, too. The fact that you have gone through some traumatic experiences yourself, and you're dealing with your own mental health, and the fact that you're still working on that, you know, it's also relatable and inspiring to me on that side. It's not like you're my trainer at the gym, so it should be just working out. But our workouts are not just physical workouts, you know, it's like a therapy session. It's like growing mentally as well, emotionally too, and learning how to handle triggers that might trigger me in the past and might still, you know, we can talk about those and talk about how like honestly how it made me feel, and then talk about, well, why did I feel that way, when, you know, you have never made me feel like, you know, like you don't care. Like when you ask questions, I've told you many times, when you ask questions, you act like you do care what the answer is, you know. And
I do care.
Yeah, I say you act.
I'm a good actor.
You know, and I don't think we've said this yet on the podcast, but like, should we talk about the first day we met and the questions that you asked me?
Oh yeah, if you want to, if you want to get into that.
Yeah, so you started at the gym in April, and our first session, you asked me, because we talked about my divorce, for some reason it came up and you just happened to ask me, so what did you learn from your divorce? And I had to sit there for a second. I'm like, wait a second, how did this turn into a therapy session all of a sudden, when I'm like, I just come here to work out and that's it, you know. That's how it always had been beforehand. Like, it was just, let's work out, small talk, then move on with our lives. But all of a sudden, with that question, it was like everything shifted, and I was like, well, who is this guy, and why, you know, why, because normally, you know, when you're working out, you would have small talk normally, right?
Yeah.
And just be like, oh, you're divorced, that sucks, like, you know, whatever. But actually asking questions about it, and not just like the high level, just like, so how long has it been, or whatever. What's your custody situation? Things like that. It was, no, what have you learned from the situation? I hadn't even thought about that question at that point, even though it had almost been a year since the divorce was finalized, and I was like, what? And ever since then, like every session has always gotten to those deep talks, and I always tell you, you know, like, after every session, I feel lighter. I feel, you know, just like refreshed, you know, because there can be, it's a whole week in between of events that could happen, triggers, trauma, just like spirals, whatever could happen, things with my kids that frustrate me or whatever. But then I come into the gym and I might feel like, oh, I don't know if I want to talk today. I just, it's just, but then we just start talking naturally and it just comes out, and then you listen so well and then ask the questions that matter to make me have a different perspective on it, or, just think about it. Because at one point, I had been reading a lot of self-help books about toxic relationships and trauma, and then, and that's what I would talk about. Right. And then at one point you were like, so at what point are you past the point of research? Now it's just ruminating. It's just like
incessant obsession.
Yeah. And so that was another aha moment in our sessions where I was just like, oh yeah, I guess I probably am overdoing it. Because then I told you I was listening to podcasts about it too. Mm-hmm. And so just that comment, we had established a relationship where I wouldn't be like, how dare you?
Dickhead.
Like, yeah.
Fucking dickhead.
Yeah, I'm still trying to recover from my trauma, asshole. But no, it wasn't like that at all. And even from day one, I never felt like you were condescending with your questions. You're curious generally and you care. So, at that point I was like, okay, it's time to start moving on to the healing aspect instead of the research and learning aspect. Now it's time to, like we said, positively spin it, and what am I going to learn from it, and how can I move on from it? I can't just stay in this spot with my sad playlist and be upset all the time. Like, I'm doing 75 hard, improving myself physically. Now, I feel like I'm improving myself mentally because I'm researching and learning about myself. I read Codependent No More, which is, that was really helpful too. But then it comes to the point where it's like, okay, I've learned enough about the trauma. It's time to learn how to grow from that and move on from that. And so it's been really helpful. 75 Hard and our sessions is not just workouts. It's not just losing weight. It's growing mentally and emotionally. And yeah, it's really authentic coming from you because you've gone through all that too. And so we can relate on that aspect, and so we grow together.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been like a crazy journey coming into Anytime Fitness, and like, just to add to your point, like, thank you for all that shit and saying all that, because like sometimes I don't think that I am a very good listener. I mean, so this is the cool thing to highlight, is like, not only through the program, we're talking about these sessions, how it goes in the gym, like, and I've told you before, I know we talk a lot more probably on average in the sessions about your problems, but I'm a person too, and I struggle mainly with anxiety, and there's a whole umbrella of issues about that. And, so, I mean, not to get like too specific into that, but like, I struggle a lot at work, and it's hard for me to focus on conversations and make sure that I'm present, but somehow, some way through over the years, I've been able to mask that in a good way. It's good to mask your problems so you're not like constantly fucking breaking down. But I struggle a lot, and I want people to know, like, even with that struggle, because everybody at some point in their life is going to have to face something, and all of us have signature struggles that we tend to just deal with a lot more. Some people it might be weight, some people it might be mental health, some people it might be drinking, and a lot of that shit would overlap into mental health. But you can still go out and conquer life and have results and succeed and make good relationships even with that struggle. And that's essentially maybe the most powerful thing that you could do. So you're like, despite what I'm feeling, despite what my brain is telling me, despite what is going on internally, I can still fucking go out and handle my shit. And I think that is just such a good posture to have. So thank you for those kind words, because yeah, I don't always feel like that's what's going on in my world.
Yeah, we've talked about that a lot, and I think you've said to me, and I've also said to you, like, I would never think that you're struggling with anything. Like, you just have a very, positive outlook. You just seem like you're always in a good mood. You always seem like you have your shit together. I've told you that. You seem like that. And you're like, wow, that's funny, because I don't feel like I do. And then I always give you crap because I'm like, okay, there can never be a silence, like a gap of silence in our workouts, because then you have to feel like, I'm sorry if you don't want me to talk about it, but you feel like you have to fill the space with talking. And so I always give you shit because in our sessions particularly, if you say, so how was your weekend? Or how was your July 4th, I think you said to me once.
Uh-huh.
So if you say those small talk things to me, I'm like, okay, there was a gap that he didn't like.
Yeah.
And he wanted to fill it. Because usually when it's us, it's like we just get to talking and, it, you know, the workout comes second, it seems like almost, because we have such good conversations.
And that's what I'm scared about. Like, being a personal trainer is like the workout is coming second. Like, that's something that I've had to really try and check. Because I like deep conversations. So the small talk is like, oh my God, this is like fucking grinding gears right now. But it's also helpful to learn how to do small talk with almost everybody, because then you could always talk about something. But sometimes I'll get caught up in the conversation. I'm like, oh fuck, we're working out too, though. Like, technically that's what I'm getting paid to do, is to train you on how to work out. So we gotta be careful with that.
But another good aspect of the talking is, I've told you before, like, if we're talking and I'm just doing reps while we're talking and you're like counting on your fingers, it's like the workout doesn't seem as bad, you know?
Unbearable.
It's so, like, our last session, you fucked me over real bad, because it was, if you remember, it was...
Oh, I remember, all right. I heard it from you.
It was outside showcased in front of the entire gym, and it was all cardio. 10 different workouts, 10 different moves or whatever, 10 different exercises, and it was all cardio.
There's some lifting in there. It wasn't 100% cardio.
There was like some squats.
Yeah.
There was no actual weightlifting.
There was sledgehammer fucking going
That's
down.
still cardio, I think.
Is it?
You're,
Yeah.
I don't know. Anyways, barely any lifting, I would say. It was mostly cardio. And I had been like, I've been telling you, I'm like, we're moving to weightlifting now. I'm sick of your circuits. I don't want to do cardio. So then when I walked in, I was like, no. And then, because I gave you so much shit, you were like, do you really not want to do it? And I was like, it's fine, let's just do it. But I really didn't want to do it. But we had such a good conversation with, you had things to talk about, I had things I want to talk about. We just spent the whole time talking and let the iPad time out, you know, the things. So it didn't even feel like, you know, I was killing myself at the gym, you know. Like, I look back on that and I was like, holy crap, it went by so fast. 2 rounds through and you're done, and you're like, you're done, and I'm like, I'm done already?
You said that at least like 3 or 4 times in a workout. You're like, it's already been 45 minutes. I'm like, yeah, dude, we got fucking stretch now.
That happened this morning at the coffee shop.
Yeah.
Freaking hour and a half of just talking, and time just slips away. And so, you know, and I'm okay with that, because I've been in the training program almost a year now. You know, I think I know how to lift now, and it's mostly just, the machines is mostly what I want to learn and stuff, and that's not, you can't really do poor form on a machine, so it's just more or less just doing it and seeing what my weights are at and stuff. And so, you know, when it comes to the conversation, that just seems to be the most important part of it. Like, I am getting a workout in, and then when we did our walk outside, you know, we were talking about how when I do the walk, I usually have my headphones in, I'm not really, you know, appreciating nature, listening to the birds or anything like that. I just kind of zone out. So that when I had you with me on my walk, it was nice to have that talk and not worry about reps or worry about just talking about...
Hey, you're cutting off the camera, dude. You don't even care.
Come here, kitty.
Just move to the window, we'll be good. You can put your ass... He's gonna flex his butthole right in the camera. Look at that sphincter.
As he should.
Yeah, flex it, homie.
But yeah, it was just nice to be able to take the conversation out of the gym so that we could both talk about our issues, not just me. And, you know, because it is give and take. I don't want to feel like I'm throwing all my problems on you all the time. I want to know about you as well. And, you know, we have a friendship. It's not just you're my trainer and you want to make sure I work out once a week or whatever. It's, you know, I want to make sure you're good too, because you've helped me. I want to help you. And, you know, I think it's a good dynamic between us.
Yeah, and like, I don't know Joe personally, so I don't want to talk shit on him. I'm sure he was a great trainer, but and again, this is not to highlight who I am, but I am confident in myself, and that the whole reason that I got hired was I had no previous training about how to be a personal trainer. I didn't go to school for that, but when I was looking for a different job and trying to leave COC here in town, I had started to apply to some places on Indeed, and I did not see an opening for Anytime Fitness. Joe, the owner, not the trainer, Big Joe, not Little Joe, he reached out to me via email and was like, hey, we got an opening. I liked your resume. Let's just have a conversation on the phone and see where it goes from there. And I was like, okay, like cool. Like, I think I could potentially do personal training. I've never done it before in the past. And the conversation was good. I remember we were talking a little bit about like spirituality and stuff like that. It was like 30 minutes. And so then I moved into the second phase of actually coming into the gym. And at the time, Allison was working there. So I had my interview with her and Danny. And same thing, got a really good vibe from those two. And then I made it to the third part, which is actually putting Danny through a training session. But to say all that, like I have no prior experience, but Joe told me, Danny, all of them, they said the reason we brought you on is your personality, your character. We love what you have to offer. Very positive. It seems like you're just willing to grow. And so all those technical aspects about training, we can train you how to do that in the process, but you have the foundation to succeed here. And although, I get caught up in that judgment process of feeling like I'm, what's the word? It's called imposter syndrome. So I very much had that in the beginning where I'm like telling people how to work out. I know I've done my own exercises, I've done my own workouts, but now like this, like fuck, I didn't know what a goblet squat was. I didn't know a lot of those things that you do in circuits. And I'm still learning. There's still a lot, like I feel stupid most of the time, but when you start a new job or a new profession, that is so normal. Like you have to get your reps to feel more confident. It's the same thing with podcasts. Like when I did my first few podcasts, I had no fucking clue what I was doing. This is actually the first dual podcast I've done in a long time, but I have more reps now, so I'm more comfortable on camera. But what I'm trying to say is that I don't even know where I'm going with this. Like it wasn't dependent on my training. Is who I was as a person. And I think that's the coolest thing that I've seen on top of like impacting people, like being a positive influence in their lives. But I've had other clients say like, relay that same sentiment that you have. It's like they forget that we're working out and we're like having a conversation and, oh, hey, like there's a person that actually cares about me. It's more than just me being the trainee and this is my trainer. And I feel like, and it's probably just because of who I am as a person, but I think that, that makes more of an impact on those people. Like, yeah, they're coming to get physically fit. And yes, that is the ultimate goal. And we're going to get there at some point. But let's develop everything else. And like, you're just the perfect example of that happening is because not only are you doing it, out on your own workouts, and then when you come in for our sessions, but you've grown mentally, you've disciplined yourself, it's all the other little things that you've changed in your life. And like, that's just so cool. Like people got to take it to that next level to succeed. But it makes me so happy that I can, like, you're not the only person that's echoed that statement. And it's like, although I feel fucking stupid sometimes prescribing these workouts, I feel like I'm doing a really good job of connecting with people. And like, y'all will never forget that even when you decide to stop training. But I know with you, like, we'll still be friends after you're done.
Can't get rid of me.
Yeah.
I really think it was fate that brought you to Anytime Fitness. Like you said, you
100%.
You didn't like apply, it naturally happened. And for me personally, I feel like it was the perfect time because, I was going through my divorce and everything, and it was depressing. I needed something to get out of that funk. And so, with Joe, so I trained with little Joe before you, and he was great. Like, I loved training with him, but it didn't get really very deep, ever. It was not really, we would talk about our lives and stuff, and we would never share, like, super deep stuff that we've gone over before. So, like, when you joined, it was, like, the perfect time because I knew that I needed a change, something to get out of the funk of the depression and everything. And so that, again, is why 75 Hard it was like the perfect timing, because it wasn't just you joining as a trainer, it was you joining and bringing this new program to the clients. Like, I know I wasn't the only person that you suggested it to. So I was like, well, first, like I said, I don't think that I can do this or whatever, but then, you have a way of being very persuasive and encouraging to make me think that I can do it. Because do you remember when you recommended phase 1, and I was like, no, I don't think I'm gonna do phase 1.
Yeah.
And I was working out, and we weren't in a session or anything, but then like halfway through my workout, I came out and asked you, what did I ask you? I was like, okay, so if I do phase 1, it's about like the three more daily tasks or critical tasks or something like that. And I was like, all right, because I was convinced after I was done with 75 hard that I wasn't going to go to phase 1. So it was just like going back to that beginning phase where I was like, I can't do 75 hard. Well, then I did it. And now I'm like, well, I can't do phase 1. And you're like, well, it's only 30 days. And, it's not like the critical tasks have to take that much time. Like, you were saying something like, it could take maybe an extra 15 minutes. You don't have to do anything. And just like with any other task, it doesn't have to be killing yourself and like devoting your entire day to it. It's just a few extra things to ramp up the level a little bit. And so halfway through my workout, I just came out and I was like, okay, so if I do it, like, can you help me think of some critical tasks to add to my day or whatever? And we can talk about what those will look like. And we talked about like making sure I get enough sleep, or like my schoolwork, like doing homework or reading or something like that, and just making it, incorporating it into my life and making it seem like it was doable. Especially only being 30 days, like that part makes it seem a little bit easier. And so I was and am kind of still considering doing it. It's not.
I haven't fully convinced you.
Not yet, but you might still do it. And that's the best part about like our dynamic and our relationship, is because it's like, yeah, you've gone through it, so you can give me good advice or good recommendations. Like, I know you're not going to steer me down the wrong path because it makes you look good if I do it. You actually care about me succeeding, especially, my kids and my job, and like I have a lot of different things going on, but it doesn't have to be daunting to add that to the list, because it's gonna end up with good results that I want, and overall, if I see those results by small changes over time, my self-esteem is going to grow, and I'm going to, be more confident in my daily life, and maybe someday, have the confidence to talk to somebody and make a new relationship, and, things that I would never want to do if I looked a certain way. Or like I sent you my side-by-side picture recently. About 3 years ago, I was pumping around the clock for my youngest daughter because, she was a baby, and when you pump, like breastfeeding, like breast milk, and you're pumping, you have to keep your calories kind of on the higher end to make sure your supply stays good. And so I was like eating and drinking a lot of high caloric things that are not in the end healthy for me, but for that time kept my milk supply going, and I was able to pump like for a full year for her, and I'm proud of that. But my body was, at the expense of my body, like gaining weight and stuff. And so, it's really cool to see how far I've come in that, span of 3 years, and being like, wow, I should feel, like I said, I should feel confident, and I should feel proud of myself for my accomplishments, that I, normally wouldn't talk about, oh, I look good now. I'm not like that. I don't want to post about myself. I want to talk about my kids. But at the same time, it's like, well, I need to be confident in myself so they can see that they should be confident in themselves, and be like, wow, because like growing up, my mom would be a little bit more critical of herself. She would always comment that, oh, I don't want to get fat, or, stuff like that. So when you grow up around that, you get a complex. And so with my kids, I just want to be like, confident in myself. So my girls might say something like, oh, look at you, got a big butt or something to me. And I'll be like, well, trust me, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. Like, you'll
Mama's packing heat.
Yeah, I'm like, when you grow up, you'll learn.
That's how she gets all the bruises.
Yeah, right. Don't talk about that.
Uh-oh, censor that. No, it goes back to the point of, and I'm going to be quoting Andy Frisella out of this entire podcast, but it's so true because he talks about this. He says that it's so important that if you go through 75 hard or you accomplish something in your life, it is so important to highlight your wins on social media, because this is probably like the best place that we can do it. That's one of the benefits of social media, because when you highlight your wins and you show people that it's possible, you're going to influence more people to do that same thing. So you influence that other girl that you were talking about that has 7 kids. So look at that ladder of effect, or that trickle down effect. It came from me, which came from Andy Frisella, which really I didn't start listening to Andy Frisella until, so there's a guy named Matt Maggio, and I did my internship with him when I was at Simpson. So I had to do 1 semester of that, and he worked in my mom's building, still does, working on scar tissue. So we got introduced. I actually met his wife first, and she came on the podcast. Then I met Matt, and him and I like pretty much have a lot of the same beliefs about what's going on in society and just life and philosophy. And he was such a good mentor to me, because he pushed me. He told me about the program. When I first met him, I was definitely not at the level that I'm at right now, and we had a lot of conflict because he would fucking challenge me, and we got in some arguments that I thought at one point that our relationship was over. But look at that ladder, like 75 hard got passed down to me, then I passed it down to you, and now you're passing it down to this girl. So when you highlight your wins and your victories, you are showing people that it's possible. And I think now more than ever, it is important to give people hope, because the world and the news and the social media and the way that we compare ourselves to this image of what we think we should be weighs on people's minds. And like you were just highlighting with phase 1, you've gotten yourself back into that conversation in your head where you're like, I don't know, that seems kind of crazy, I don't know if I can do it. People tell themselves these stories that they can't go out and accomplish things, when it's like, really you fucking can. But sometimes, actually most of the time, you don't have that confidence or that belief in yourself, so you have to see somebody else do it, and you see that it's possible, and then you go in and you put in the work, and you really do have to fake it in the beginning, and you have to do it like years and years and years and years, and go through the monotonous routine before then you really form that belief. Like, there are still times for me personally where I lack confidence and self-esteem, but again, it's something that, like you said, you probably don't see it in me, but I do, I guess, a good job of covering it up. But it really is helpful to have examples of people that are going out there and striving for goals and, you know, improving their lives, because we need that visual example. Otherwise, we may never think it's possible based on what society tells us, how we were raised from our parents, whatever it may be. Everybody has those limiting self-beliefs about themselves. And so I think I agree with you. Like, there has to be a balance of, like, you want to be a very confident individual. You couldn't conquer things in your life without that confidence, but you also have to be humble and have some humility. And I think both of us have that. And that's probably another dynamic for why our relationship works so good, is like, we take criticism and we don't take it personally. Like, when you were helping me with my most recent thing, you told it like it was, but not in a rude way. I'm like, yeah, I probably am. Like, I fucking admit, I'm like, yeah, I'm not doing well with this whole thing. So, I always see you posting about your kids, but I loved when you did like, it was like halfway through 75 hard, you tagged me, I shared that. And then I don't know if I think you did one to finish, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I tagged you in that one too.
I don't know if it was a picture of me. It's probably just a picture of you. But
the gym one.
Yeah, but I shared it, and like, I don't know. You probably see on my Instagram every time we do like a member spotlight or whatever for Anytime Fitness Norwalk. Mm-hmm. I share that shit because I'm like, again, I am so proud of these people that are making changes too. Like, I literally get to witness this every single week at my job. I get to see people taking care of their body, their mind, their spirit, their discipline, everything. And I want to share that as much as I can, for my followers to see that it is possible. And I think like that's really the only way that we change a lot of these crises that we're in right now. Because if you were to just pay attention to what's going on in the news, you'd think that we are fucked.
Yeah.
So I think it's important that you highlight your wins.
Well, you notice that, I don't know if you noticed this when you were doing 75 hard, but like, it seems like a lot of naysayers and haters come out of the woodwork when you're doing it, because it seems like it's so overwhelming, all the stuff you have to do every single day with no break. And so I was shocked to learn that, well, of course I at first was scoffing at it and saying, there's no way I could do this. But then when I actually committed to it, and I knew, like I said to you before, if I was going to commit to it, I knew I was going to do it straight through, no starting over. Like, I knew it. When I set my mind to it, I'm going to do it. And so I did it. So when people come around, especially having 3 kids, single mom, full-time job, like, how do you do it? And so I would have people come, mention things such like, oh, have you read today? Are you keeping up with your, this and that? And I think when I first started, I was like, my outside workout sometimes is playing in the pool with my girls. Like, sometimes maybe I would just sit on the side of the pool and watch them, or sit on my phone. Admittedly, that's not a good choice, but, sometimes as a mom, you don't have time to just sit down and be on your phone, so if they're playing, that's what I want to do. But now with 75 hard, I get in the pool with them. I'm running around, I'm catching them, throwing them, whatever. I'm being physical. We're making memories together. Another good way of incorporating them into my workouts or whatever. But people would be like, does that really count as a workout? And I think I asked you the very beginning when I started, I'm like, does that really count as a workout? And you said, yeah, it should, because I'm being active, and, otherwise I would just be sitting down doing nothing. So it should count because I'm moving around or whatever. But who's really to say if it counts or not? It really comes down to what kind of results do you want from the program? Like, like if you don't think it's good enough, then do something else. And I did at first, like I did do a walk after that, but I was like, that's not feasible. When I have the girls, this is going to count. I'm just going to make it a point to keep moving and don't just stand there and watch them in the pool. Like, I'm actually, moving around and keeping my heartbeat a little bit raised because I'm doing stuff. And so it was funny to me that it's the people who are naysaying and critiquing you and thinking you can't do it and have no faith in you are the ones who are doing nothing themselves. They're not trying to better themselves at all. So we talked about that quote from the Eminem song, if you're gonna critique me, you better at least be as good or better. Like, who are you to tell me I'm not doing enough when you spent all day in front of the TV? I was in the pool with my kids, and otherwise would have been just sitting by the TV too. Like, it's something that I made a conscious choice to stay active, and that's going to help me get towards my goal. It might not have been killing myself in the gym, but it's still something, and it's 75 days of doing it, so adding all that up, you still get results, obviously. You lost 30 pounds doing that, and so that's, seems small at the time, but doing it every day adds up.
You got to find something that is sustainable to get in. Again, Andy will tell you, it's scalable too. So like, if you're like insanely overweight, insanely obese, are you gonna go do a fucking HIIT workout, your first workout? Probably not. Yeah. You might need, both your workouts might be a walk. You probably can't even get 45 minutes. So it's scalable to the individual and your goals. And that's the beautiful thing about the program, is like, no matter how many excuses you make, you could still do it. It's scalable to your lifestyle, where you're at, and what your goals are. And then your other point about the haters, yes, it is true, because when you start improving your life, it makes other people uncomfortable. Not to throw my mom underneath the bus, but like when I was doing it, I could count, many times where she would be like, well, that is just extreme. That is just insane. Like, you just need a break. Like, you're going to burn out. And again, I think that is like something that has been passed down in society, and people buy into that belief. Like, there's nothing wrong with self-care, but people abuse self-care. They're like, well, I just had like a really stressful week, so I'm just going to sit back and pamper myself for the whole weekend. And like, cool, like maybe every once in a while you need something like that. But to me, self-care is getting myself in the fucking gym when I don't want to, doing my walk. A cool thing about the program that we forgot to highlight is like when you're outside, regardless of the conditions of the weather. So if it's raining, and I did it in November to January, so it was cold and it was snowing.
Yeah.
But like it just sharpens your mental in that way. But yeah, like for the hater aspect of it, it's like you're improving your life and that's making other people uncomfortable because then they have to confront themselves and they're like, fuck, I'm not doing the same thing, look at them. And that's in some subconscious way why they try and tear you down or sound condescending or like ask you those questions in that tone. And it's really like, I don't know, for me, I don't know if I got many people like that. It was more so just like my mom would say things like that. But to me, it's more fuel to the fire. I take that negativity and I turn it into positivity. And we were talking about that earlier, is like with our triggers. Again, I think that's something that you learn in the program, doing it for 2.5 months, is that you get it done no matter what. And that's analogous to anything that comes your way in life, no matter what type of adversity you go through. You're still progressing if you get your shit done. You could feel like absolute fucking shit for whatever happened. You know, you had a bad day at work, you got in a fight with your spouse, but you still got your shit done, so you're still moving in the right direction despite the circumstances. And that's again kind of what I was trying to allude with my mental health, is like there are some days where it feels like it's collapsing. But I know that for one, it's an illusion. It's my mind is playing a trick on me. But I go to work, maybe we have a session and everything kind of turns around. And so again, you can succeed when even the world or your life feels like it's crumbling around. So you don't listen to those haters.
Yeah.
That's fuel.
My life was crumbling around me when I first started because I was going through the divorce. It was a huge change and shock to my normal, comfortable life. I never expected that to be part of my life. And so I've told you before, one positive thing about the program and how many tasks there are is it does fill up your time. So like when I don't have the girls, instead of sitting in front of the TV or having a drink and just sulking and just, missing my kids and just like, ruminating on the changes that I just went through and, feeling bad about it, this program keeps you busy so that you don't have time to sit there and do that. And like, it's alcohol free, right? And so even if I sat at home, I couldn't drink, and drinking just makes you, it's a depressant, right? So it just makes you feel worse when you have it. And so no alcohol and staying active and like, so I would go to Gray's Lake and bike around that path. And like that felt like a big accomplishment. You gain confidence in the new tasks that you try out that you normally wouldn't have if you weren't tasked to do it because the program says to do it. So I learned, now I can go to Gray's and that's in my back pocket and ride bikes, which I never used to do, by myself. I've never taken my bike somewhere and, gone on a bike ride by myself. It was always my kid's dad. He would load us up and we would all go together, and I never had to handle that kind of thing. And so I learned, I'm able to do that myself. And so it would keep me busy and on the straight and narrow instead of spiraling down about the recent changes in my life. And so the other thing I want to mention too, we talked about the weather. So there were a few times when it was raining and I had to go on my walks, and I texted you one time from the walk. My phone was so wet that I could barely even text, but I texted you, if you remember, and I was like, I blame you, fuck you, it's all your fault that I'm out here in the rain, this sucks. But it was funny because I was just laughing because it only happened a couple of times, I think. But even when it did, I think we've talked about this, and I think Andrew Frisella has talked about it on his podcast. I listened to a couple of them, but that is all. The walk is the physical wellness, but also it's a mental wellness because you are the only one out there doing it. Everyone else is like, well, it's raining, let's go home. And then you're the one who's out there and people are driving by and seeing you and stuff, and you're just like, yeah, I gotta get my shit done no matter what, so look at me, you know, and you get done and you're just like, well, that kind of sucked, but I still did it, and it's an accomplishment. You gain confidence, you know, like I said, every day when you try something new or you're tasked with something, like a new challenge, and like a challenge is always fun for me to do, and I always feel good afterwards getting it done, you know.
Yeah, so. And you can't say no to a challenge.
No.
So that's like, I can always play that card, is just challenge you to something, but you can't do it.
I know, and 75 phase 1 is going to be the biggest challenge yet that I'm going to have to.
You're going to crush it though.
I got some time to think about it before I'd have to start it. But you said if I do phase 1, I have to do 2 and 3.
And I told you that depending on when you were to start any of the phases, if you start phase 1 on October 2nd, I am doing phase 3 because I started 75 Hard on November 1st. So you have to complete the entire Live Hard program in 1 calendar year, and that means you pass. But it makes it crazy on phase 3 because you have to start a month before you started 75 Hard the previous year, so you cannot fuck up in phase 3. Otherwise, I mean, don't get me wrong, you built up your mentality and your discipline, but the caveat, like, okay, you have to get this, and that is the biggest piece of advice if there's anybody out there that wants to start 75 Hard, and you were a perfect example of this, is the mentality is that you have to accept that I am going to get this done no matter what, and that's what's going to propel you. It doesn't matter what happens along the way, what tries to deter you, you're gonna get it done. I hurt my foot like the 2nd or 3rd day into 75 Hard, and I was like, what the fuck, dude? I just started. I got hurt like 3 or 4 times, so I scaled it back on my workouts and let whatever it was heal. And then got COVID, and I still got it done. So it's like...
Well, yeah, and traveling, too, is... so you have to, like you say, the mentality is, I'm going to get it done. Like, I just know I have to no matter what. I'm going to prioritize this program and make it happen. And so traveling, like, one of the tips I would give anyone is, like, setting up preparing, I would say. So, like, when I traveled back home, it was like a 3.5-hour drive, you know, and so it was like, okay, I told my mom and sister before I came, I was like, this is what I'm doing, and so I think we've talked about this, but my sister's husband would always make supper. Like, he always a really good cook, and he would make really good food, but my diet said I had to count calories, and I didn't want to be like, hey, can you tell me the calories in this, like, just making it weird. So I was like, hey, can you just talk to your husband? I'm just gonna bring, you know, I think I brought like the Jimmy John's or like a sub or something for my supper that night because I knew the calories for it. And so just setting that, you know, setting the expectation before you get there, being like, hey, you know, talk to him, or I'll talk to him and be like, hey, you know, this is what I'm doing. It's not that I don't want to eat the food you made, it's I'm trying to stay on my program. And so one thing I did was bring my own supper. And then he even asked me that night, he was like, hey, for breakfast, how about like a poached egg or something, I think is what he asked me. He's like, can you have that, or some toast, or, you know, he really was supportive and trying to help me stay on track, you know, and I could kind of scale the calories of like 1 egg or like a piece of toast, and so I would know what it was for that, you know. And so they were really supportive in that. And then what, I just lost my train of thought.
I do that all the time.
I know, it's hard when there's so much to share, but oh yeah, so like prioritizing it and telling them this is what I'm going to do before I get there, so they know. Because normally it would be, like I said, drinking, eating whatever we want, and just having fun. But if you go into it, so if you're going to travel and you think, oh, I can't do this when I'm traveling, well, if you make a plan, you can stick to the plan and like make it work. And so if like I knew I had to get 2 workouts in a day, am I going to do 1 before I leave and 1 when I get there? Am I going to do 2 there? Will I go home and do the rest, you know, that night? You know, that's why I think having it printed off and in front of me, I could be like, okay, when am I going to do each one, and how am I going to do each one? So I took my sheet with me when I was there, and after I left, my sister found it, and she took a picture, and she was like, hey, I found your sheet or whatever, your checklist. And so I left it there, but I was like, you can just throw it away. But, you know, I brought it with me to make sure that I do it. And, and again, it's like a feeling of accomplishment. If you go into it with a plan and you say, I'm sticking to this, it would be much easier to just be like, oh, for this weekend, I'm just gonna not have any rules and do whatever I want. But if you're able to, throw travel on top of every other task you have, just set the bar high and say, hey, whoever I'm staying with, this is what I have to do. Let's, figure out how to make it work. And normally, at least in my experience, they're supportive and they will help you, reach your goals. They're not going to be like, oh, well, too bad, And when I stayed with my sister another time, I wasn't drinking at all, but she had some drinks, and she was like, I was gonna drive back home. It was like 11 at night, and it was like a 4-hour drive, and she was like, just come stay with me. And I was like, okay, but you can't force me to drink, not force me to drink, but you can't like ask me to have drinks with you, because we would drink together a lot. We like doing that. And she was like, okay, yeah, of course not. And she would have some drinks and she'd get me like a glass of water or whatever, and we'd still talk, and it was still fun. And as long as you set the expectation and stick to it, people will usually follow your lead, I think, and that's been helpful. So travel wasn't super hard for me after I figured all that out.
I think and probably for you had to plan out a little bit more if you were going to travel, because you're a single mother. Or would you only travel when you didn't have the kids, or would you travel sometimes when you had the kids?
It was both.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, for you, it was probably more important to plan. I do agree with you. I think no matter what, you should have a plan. But then there are some of those days where nothing goes to the way that you planned. Really, I didn't have a lot of those days, but one in particular that stands out is Thanksgiving. And we always go up to Waterloo to see my grandparents. And so, hey, get down, buddy. Yeah. I started my workout in the morning at the YMCA, and I wasn't really sure at what time we were going to go up to my grandparents' house. And so my mom calls me, and I hadn't even started my workout yet. She's like, it's time to go. We're going up to Waterloo. We're going to pick you up. I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I just started working out. Yeah. I haven't even touched the weights yet. I'm like, how is this going to work? Because it's 2 hours to get up there. And then, we're going to hang around until about like 3 o'clock. 3 or 4, and then we're going to drive back, so another 2 hours. So I was like freaking out. But then again, kind of like checked myself and went up there, had a good time. We got back. I ran home to my apartment real quick, and it was probably like, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7. And I did kind of like a yoga-ish workout just in my living room for 45 minutes. And then I went on a walk, and it was probably close to like 10 o'clock, and it was fucking freezing out, but I got it done. So there are days like that too, where it's like, it doesn't matter how much you try and control or manipulate your day. And we were talking about that earlier. I got to show you my schedule from up in Ames. But yeah, it's good to have a plan, because then you can go out and try and execute that plan. But then there are some days where you just have to adjust. Like sometimes that schedule is just fucked.
Yeah.
And nothing seems to be working in your favor.
Yeah. And
did you have days like that with the travel, or just in general?
I really didn't have, I guess some forks in the road would be like if the girls were sick, or like, if they didn't sleep very well that night and I was tired and didn't really want to get it done. I don't recall any exact super fiasco days like that, because I'm a planner. Like, I've always been a planner my whole life. Everything that I do is usually pretty calculated out, and so that's why I think I was able to succeed. And because I have 3 kids and because I have a full-time job, I knew it was going to be a challenge going into it. So I knew that I would have to be very precise about, calculating out my day and prioritizing things and fitting it in and stuff, which is why, like, I would try to get one workout in over my lunch hour. I'd come to the gym so that I only had one workout to do when I had the girls, and we could go on a walk or go outside or whatever. That was really, hey buddy, helpful to do. But, what were we just
like days that don't go to plan, but you had to be very specific and diligent because of your lifestyle.
Yeah, I wanted to touch on another thing when I was traveling, like could have been bad because we went up to Rochester to visit my grandpa who's in a nursing home at the Mayo Clinic, and my sister and mom wanted to go out to eat somewhere. Like we always would just visit him and then go out to eat, and my sister wanted to go to Buffalo Wild Wings. And I was like, let me just look at their menu real quick, and it was like the wrap or something that I would want, or even the salads were like 1,000 calories or more. And I'm like, I can't do that, you know. And me personally wanting to be like the people pleaser, I'm like, oh, maybe I could just go because that's what she wants to do, so we should just do that. But I was like, no, I need to, you know, set my boundaries and, you know, stick to them. And so I was like, I don't think that'll work for me. You know, I can't have that kind of food. And so then I suggested Applebee's, because they have like a 550 calorie dinner where it's like grilled chicken, broccoli, and like some mashed potatoes or something. And she was very open to it. She was like, yeah, absolutely, let's do that. If that's what you want to do, totally fine, not a big deal, you know. And so we went there, and, you know, it's like those little things where you have a choice to make, right? Like, it could have gone off the rails. I could have just said, you know, there's no way I can make this work. We're gonna have to eat there because that's what everyone wants to do, so I'll just do that. But, you know, it's being on that program, your mental health toughens up, right? And you learn that self-love, like I always said, you know. And so it's like, well, if I said I can't eat here, what harm is that going to do anyone else? Like, you know, what's the worst that could happen? Oh, we have to eat somewhere else. We're still going to a restaurant, still good food. They can get whatever food they want there, you know. And so, yeah, there's several times, you know, where I could have just said, oh, I'm tired, or the girls, they don't want to go on a walk, they don't want to go outside, they don't want to do this and that or whatever. And so there's a lot of potential for falling off or going off the rails, you know. Every day you have to make a choice to follow the program and continue it on, because, you know, in the end it'll be worth it and you'll be happy with the results. Because if I would have just said, yeah, let's go eat at Buffalo Wild Wings, I'd be back where I was, no results, no, you know, and I wouldn't have that heightened confidence afterwards, because I just reverted back to my old ways. And so I don't think that I've had days where it's been like crazy and I couldn't fit it in. It was more, you know, I knew I had to make a choice so that I could stay on the program and make it work.
Yeah, and I think people just don't realize the impact of the small decisions that they make every single day. And that's another thing I've had to communicate to clients is like, okay, think about this though. Like, if you did you make 1 or 2 or 3 decisions that made you unhealthy? No, chances are this was a bunch of little decisions over years, and you created this person. So we're not just going to change this around in 3 months. We might get some progress. We definitely should if you're taking it seriously. But every small little decision, I love comparing it to compound interest, like in a bank account, you know, or like if you were to invest in some type of stock, you know, you put in that initial amount, but as you keep it in there every single day. This is more analogous, like the company actually has to be doing well. But, you know, just for this comparison, let's say they're going up that incline, that initial amount that you put in, it continues to just grow and grow and grow and grow and skyrocket. So that's, I think, maybe another important thing to tell people if they were considering doing this program or whatever it is really just, it seems so monotonous, and it definitely does get monotonous and boring. But usually it's the monotonous and boring things that we're supposed to do every day that are going to enhance our lives in the long term. And that's why people usually put it off, because they're like, oh, it's boring, I don't want to fucking do it. But like, if you put that into the long term, into that perspective in your mind, that this is just going to keep me consistently healthy and happy overall, in a much better mental space and a better mood, like, then I think people would take it a little bit more seriously and focus a lot on the small daily actions repeated for 20 to 25 years in a row. Think about the person that you are going to become in the process. 2.5 months is a good chunk of time to form habits, but in the span of your entire life, that is just a small little fraction. So if you can create enough momentum in that time and then carry it out for the rest of your life. Just think about where you're going to go. Think about how your finances are going to improve, your relationships are going to improve, the way you approach your job and taking it seriously. And like I said, for me, the impact that I have on other people, they're coming to me to change their lives. I am helping you change your life in a variety of ways. So then when you think about it in that context, those small decisions are vital. Yeah. And you have to keep doing them that's what I love about the programs. Like, despite how you feel, you still get that shit done. And I've applied that same concept in my life, even now that 75 hard is over.
And it's little decisions every day, like I said, to put you on the positive, but on the flip side, now that I'm done, it's little decisions that I make that could derail me too. Mm-hmm. So like, from what I've learned on the program is, like, yeah, I missed having drinks, but like, really how do I feel when I do have drinks? You know, do I really need that in my life? Like, why do I do that? Because if I drink, I feel bad the next day, which is just a negative. So what's the point of that? It's not something that I need. And then another thing that I indulge in is like fast food or like snacking and stuff. It's like, once you haven't had a lot of that for so long, you go back and have it and it upsets your stomach and you don't feel good. And so once you've had the food, you're like, why did I need that? Like, it just doesn't make me feel good having it. And so I think for me personally, it's good for me to have a long stretch, like say 75 days of good choices, being active and doing all the right things. And then a couple weeks or whatever of indulging and then back to where I was. Because then it's like, it's give and take. And I learned, because what I used to do was kill myself at the gym and do, starve myself during the week, and then every weekend would be all bets off. I'm just gonna have drinks, I'm gonna have food, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And then, so that was like always extreme on each end. But I think if I can go like 75, most of the time, 75 days of good choices, and then like 2 weeks of resting and indulging, and then go back to the longer stretch of, because it's, what do they say, everything in moderation, right? So I think I wasn't doing moderation much. It was more extreme on each end, and this way it's more like, okay, for a longer stretch of time I'm going to be doing the right things, that moving myself forward, but I know that there's an end to it where I can have those things that I like, but just not as often or not as much, because they don't help in my success in life where I want to be. But I don't want to count them out completely, because then I don't want to just restrict myself forever, because life is lit for living and enjoying, and I like doing those things, but they don't need to happen as often as they were before. So they're still there, but just not every weekend or whatever.
Yeah, and I mean, like, the healthier that you get in every regard, mainly physical, if you're talking about having a shitty meal every once in a while, is like, when you get to that level and you have one, you realize it's not going to throw you off at all. Like, and it also comes down to genetics. So for like me, like, I can survive on eating a lot more carbs. Being a tall, skinny guy, I need more carbs to survive. But you realize, like, if you have like ice cream or whatever one night, you're like, dude, like, I burned that off in my I burned those calories off in my workout today. Don't stress about it. And even when you eat shitty every once in a while, if you don't have any like stress or anxiety about it, your body's gonna process it and be totally fine. There have been times where, like, maybe I hadn't had enough meals throughout the day, and like maybe at the end of the night, it was like a Friday or something, I treated myself with like a Jack's Pizza or got McDonald's or whatever. Like, it looked like my physique actually improved, because it was like, okay, this is like a lot of calories, but like I said, I hadn't ate much today, so my body responded well, and I was not stressed about it. I'm like, I eat pretty well most of the time, so why would I even get stressed? That is I think the best way to operate as a human being. Because, like, let's face it, we live in America. Like, we got fucking double cheeseburgers. You can have some of the best pizza out there. Personally, my favorite is ice cream. I have a big sweet tooth, and I can't put that shit down. But yeah, you don't need to beat yourself up because you took a few weeks off and indulged a little bit. It's just, hopefully you get yourself to a point where you've built that mentality that you don't let 2 weeks slip into a month, and then a month goes to 2 months, and then, oh shit, here comes all that weight again, and now we're going through that non-ending loop where I lose a bunch of weight, and then I put it back on. Like, I think the embodiment of the 75 Hard program is we're trying to create this mentality for life. But again, it's just like discipline or any other perishable skill. If you're taking away from those investments of going into that bank account, well, then you're going to start to regress. And then, you got to be self-aware to check yourself when you're getting off path. And then again, have no judgment about it. Just be like, oh shit, I kind of been slacking these last 2 weeks. Let's get back on the train. Have no judgment about it.
Okay, so 2 things I got to share. 75 Hard was easier to complete when I have people in my corner who are rooting me on, like talking to you about it, like I don't want to let you down if I failed it, or like, I have, the gym family, Danny, everybody at the gym, knows who I am, and they say hi, and they, expect to see me. So if they don't see me, if I come in after a while and they don't see me, they might be like, well, where have you been and stuff. And it's not a bad thing, it's good. It is
good. It's an accountability partner.
Exactly, right. And so I don't want to fail anybody else, and so that helps me to keep going. And so, like you said before, the gym family is like more than just, okay, I'm here to work out and then leave. It's like they know about my journey, they know the path that I'm on, and they're rooting me on, and I don't want to let them down. So that's helpful. But when it comes to ice cream, I had ice cream one time throughout the whole summer. I had just done my second workout. I went to Graze and whatever, and then I posted a Snapchat on my story that said something like, okay, I'm done with my workouts, I'm gonna go have my ice cream. And it was a mini-sized, 370 calorie Blizzard from Dairy Queen, and I posted that I was gonna go get it, and somebody responded and was like, really, or don't do it, or something. They were like, really, you just got done working out, now you're gonna go have ice cream, don't ruin all your progress by getting ice cream or whatever. Like, totally dogging me for having ice cream, a mini size, one time throughout the whole summer. And I was like, that's a naysayer. That's another hater who is doing nothing, again, in their own life to improve their lives, or they're probably eating ice cream every day. I don't know, but it's like
they're eating ice cream as they're typing it.
And I'm just like, don't tear me down. Like, I just told you I did 2 workouts, 45 minutes each. I can have an ice cream, and plus fit it into my calorie deficit. I was still in a deficit, and I didn't have to starve myself all day just to have that 300 and whatever calories. One small little thing of ice cream, if it's going to give me the dopamine or the just little treat, that I needed. Because I was haven't had ice cream all summer, and usually me and the girls, we get ice cream often. We like it, like you said. And so if I'm not indulging at all, I'm more prone to regress. So if I felt like I needed a little bit of ice cream at that time, I think it was okay. And for someone to be like, no, don't.
It's like that little hit of cocaine. Every once in a while. I had this was before I got on 75 Hard, but when I was still working at COC, I had this experience where, I don't know how much I've talked to you about COC, but we had a lot of toxic workers, mostly women, and when women work together, they talk shit about each other. They rumor mill comes alive, and they gossip. It's not a good place to be at. But anyways, we had candy at COC because we would give candy to the people supported to entice them to take their medicine at night or whatever. And so I think we got Reese's one time, and that's my favorite candy. And I think I only had one, or no, maybe I brought my own candy, and it was in my lunchbox, and I had maybe 2 or 3 of the Reese's peanut butter cups, and I only had one, and saved the 2 when I was leaving. And one of the girls was like, how do you do that? If I had a whole bag of candy right in front of me, I'd eat the whole thing. And I was like, yeah, I have a whole bag of this candy at my apartment, and I'll maybe have one a night, which again, for me, it would do nothing. It'd be no damage whatsoever. I'm not encouraging people to do this on 75 Hard, by the way, because that defeats the purpose of the program. But what I'm saying is that is a way to flex your mental toughness. It's like you have all this candy in front of you, and you could eat the entire bag You're going out with your friends, they want you to get fucked up. You can definitely say yes, but you can also say no. Or yeah, you can go out, you might have one drink or whatever, you know, get a little bit buzzed, but completely be functioning for the next day. And it's like, that's a huge flex too. When you you have the temptation right in front of you and you're like, nah, I'm good.
Yeah, and I cannot resist unless I'm on a program like that. I've noticed about myself. It's so blah, blah, blah. When I'm on 75 hard, I'm like tunnel vision. I'm like, this is my goal. Nothing's going to stop me from it, and I'm gonna make it happen. So like, I could have candy around me, and I'm just like, I know I can't have it. I know I'm not going to. Or like alcohol, I know I'm not. It would be easier to do it, but you know, I know what my plan is, and I'm not going to do it. But if I'm not on it, then I'm like, okay, well, I really don't have a reason not to, so I'm just going to. And so that's what I've learned about myself. I cannot move forward in my life and successes without having some kind of, you know, direction each day, because you know, I will go off the rails. Even 75 hard, like, you know, it's supposed to be longer so that you have those habits, you know, ingrained in you more because it's longer than just a month or whatever. But I think for myself personally, I will probably have to keep doing 75 hard on and off just to get to my goals. Just because I know myself and I've learned that about myself. I thought coming off of it, I would be like, yeah, okay. And I think I've told you, I'm like, I'm going to do a little bit more pulled back version of 75 hard. And I've told a couple people because they're like, what's next? And I was like, well, I think I'm going to just, you know, do a half gallon of water a day or just like one workout on the weekends or something, you know. And I tried that and I did come to the gym a few times, you know, and I did, you know, do my walks and stuff. But it wasn't consistent again, you know, like it never, I think you've asked me before about like when I worked out with Joe and like, you know, losing weight and stuff. I think you said like, what's the most you've lost or something? Because we were talking about I lost 30 pounds. And I was like, yeah, 30 pounds again and again and again. And so if I'm not consistent with something, then it's going to the weight is going to come back and, you know, it's just going to be that loop again. And so, you know, I really like the program that it keeps my discipline on track, and I realized I cannot stay on track without that. And I need the full program, not just, well, I think I'm going to do a couple things on the weekends, you know, or, you know, more when I don't have the girls and stuff. I can say that all I want, but when it comes down to it, I get lazy. I make excuses and stuff, and now I've learned about myself that without the program in place, I could derail quickly, so I need to get back on it. And so that's just something, you know, reflecting on and learning about myself, but knowing that there is a program out there that I can keep doing again and again and change it up however I want to, because, you know, it's scalable, like you said. It can be more intense or less intense. And like when you were doing your walks and stuff, you said the walks became easier and easier, so you got that weighted vest, you know, to kind of ramp it up a little bit. And so it's not always the same thing. It's not going to be boring because you can make those little tweaks to fit where you're at in the process.
That's the cool thing on the program is you kind of get obsessed, at least I do, as an ambitious person. I'm always looking for the next thing, and sometimes that's not helpful because I don't appreciate how far I've come. I've learned to pull my head out of my ass every once in a while and be like, dude, look at you, look at how far you've come. It's a lot healthier than it used to be. But yeah, when you're on the program, anybody that's going to do the program is probably ambitious. Like if you're trying to improve your life and get better, we all kind of share some of the same qualities. That once you do that and it becomes not even necessarily easy, but it's not as challenging, you look for other ways to challenge yourself. So then like it was the weighted vest, and then on the walks, because when you go, I drove you by the pool, and then if you go on that path and you go through the woods on the trail, there's a big ass hill. So then I would start running up and down the hill. And I'd be like, oh my God, my quads are fucking burning. But yeah, and then that's why I said to you a few times, I'm like, I think you'll find yourself doing phase 1 at some point. But you know, maybe even 2, if you do 75 hard 2 or 3 times, maybe you'll get yourself to a point that you don't have the threat of putting that weight back on. Like maybe you kind of cure it, by doing it, 3 or 4 times, because that's even more time to build those habits. So
Yeah.
that might change too.
And one thing I noticed when we did our outside walk at that Elizabeth Holland Park, since you're so much taller than me and you walk faster, I think I told you too that day, I was like, dang, I burned like, I don't know if it was double the calories, but it was a lot more calories than I normally do because I was trying to keep up. Because I think you said something like, oh, I'm gonna have to slow down or something. And I was like, hell no, like we're gonna bust this out and we're gonna like get it done. And so I think like if you're talking, and as much as we talk, as long-winded as we always are, and then you're adding a walk onto that, it's a more of a challenge than it would be if I was just walking by myself.
Yeah.
Because when I'm out there and I'm listening to my podcasts and stuff, I'm like, I don't really have anywhere to be. Usually if I'm walking somewhere, I'm a fast walker to get there. But like if I'm just doing a loop, it's kind of just like a leisure walk. So like when you came in, I was like, all right, let's do this, and it was more challenging, and I liked that about it.
Yeah, you're kind of gasping for air when you're talking the entire time. No, but I think we've kind of reached a conclusion on the podcast. We've been here for a while. We were talking for like an hour before we, like at the coffee shop. So now it's like, I think 3 hours in total or something like that. But thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely.
It's been a pleasure to get to know you, to become your friend, to see you transform throughout this process. I said this in one of the texts. I said, I cannot wait to see what you do afterwards, because I know you like challenges, and I know that even if you get yourself in a rut, you're like, fuck, what can I do to get myself out of it? So I appreciate you so much, just for everything, all the benefits that you've added to my life. And again, I think it's so cool that you did 75 hard despite all the reasons that you could have said, I can't do it. You did it, and I don't know, I think you're pretty badass, so.
Well, thanks for the inspiration. Wouldn't have done it without you.
Of course. All right, guys. Peace out. Thanks for tuning in. See you next time.